Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Standards Committee. Before we begin, I'll hand over to our clerk, Bob Hanton, to read out the housekeeping notices. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. Please note that this meeting of the Standards Committee is being recorded by the Council and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. Anyone who is in the call but not in the room and wishing to speak, please use the raise your hand feature and switch on your video when invited to speak. Please could members in the room only speak when invited to by the chair, and mute your microphones when not speaking. And finally, please ensure that background noise is kept to a minimum and that mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, welcome members, and thank you to our officers here tonight as well. We have Ingrid Brown as our Deputy Monitoring Officer here tonight. Thank you also to our independent persons, Paul Cashmore and Ian Sibley, and also to our member of the public who has turned up tonight as well. So we go on to the agenda, and item number 1 is apologies. Have we received any apologies, Bob?
Chairman, we've had apologies from Councillor Armstrong, who is unwell and unable to be at the meeting, but she is on the call through Teams. As such, can contribute to the meeting, but isn't permitted to vote should we ever come to that.
Thank you, and welcome, Councillor Armstrong. I take it that you can hear us okay. Hopefully. Okay, well, yes, you can. Yes, she's just put something in the chat bar. So we'll move on to declarations of interest. Do any members present who will be voting tonight have any declarations of interest to make, please? No? Excellent. Then we'll go on to item 4, confirmation of the minutes. I believe there is a small erratum on the minutes under apologies. Were there any apologies on those minutes at that meeting, please?
Yes, Chair. We can see from the substitute members that there were the 2 apologies there, so I can change that on the final version to put them in paragraph 1 as well.
Thank you. With that amendment, is everybody content to accept those minutes as read? Thank you. So we now move on to public issues. This is to receive any public questions, statements or petitions submitted in accordance with the Constitution. Can I ask the clerk, please, have there been any questions submitted?
Chairman, we have three public questions submitted by Mr. McKinstry, who's here in the meeting, and we've had no public statements.
Thank you. Mr. McKinstry, would you like to take a seat at the committee table and read your questions to us? And I have asked the Deputy Monitoring Officer to respond to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, committee. So question 1, complaint number 97 was lodged at least 15 months ago. It was listed in the report to this committee on the 5th of July 2022, and a detailed account of the subject councillor's disengagement was given to this committee on the 13th of March 2023. Paragraphs 16 to 18 of tonight's report confirm, moreover, that since the complaint was upheld for a second time on the 28th of March, the subject councillor has been contacted 5 times asking if she will comply with the related sanctions on the 3rd of April, on the 6th of June via phone, Teams and email, and again on the 10th of August. Just for absolute clarity, has the subject councillor replied to or acknowledged any of these recent attempts at contacting her in any way?
Thanks very much for your question, Mr. McKinstry. Just to confirm that there's been some further recent communication in relation to this matter, and further details will be provided in the event that the committee tonight agrees a report should be drafted and presented to the next meeting of full council. Thank you.
Okay, shall I ask the second question, Chair? Proceed with that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Can we have the names of the subject councillors in complaints 97, 121, 141, 142 and 146, each of which have been upheld or partially upheld? I ask this partly because I can see nothing in the Constitution that disallows this, partly due to the gravity of some of the proven allegations, and partly because members have been named at these meetings before, even where no breach of the code has been established. The naming of errant councillors also corresponds with case law. I put there the case of the Queen versus Broadlands District Council, ex parte Lashley, 2001, and also Kemi Badenoch's reply to the Committee on Standards in Public Life in 2022, namely that being criticised in public and held to account via the ballot box were among the potential consequences of code of conduct breaches. If the council is not going to name the subject councillors at this stage, can we have the reasons?
Thanks again for your second question, Mr. McKinstry. I'm not able to give the names of the subject councillors as these matters were all decided at the informal stage of the Code of Conduct's complaints process. This stage of the process is dealt with by the Chair of Standards in consultation, and it is accepted that at this stage of the process a duty of confidence is owed to the subject councillor. In the event that a complaint is referred for an independent investigation, considered and upheld by the Standards Committee at the formal stage of the process, then the subject councillor's details are made known, unless it is considered that an exemption applies. Similarly, in the event that the committee agrees that should be a report to council for non-compliance, then the subject councillor's details will also be made known. And I read the case that you refer to and can confirm that this position is congruent with the decision referred to in RV Broadlands District Council, ex parte Lashley. Thank you.
That's most useful, thank you. Okay, and the third question, paragraph 8 in the report shines some fleeting light on the recent volume and handling of complaints, but is no substitute for the detailed annual report on code of conduct complaints, which for some reason hasn't been produced this year. Can the chair confirm whether production of the annual reports has been discontinued? I accept that they're not a statutory requirement, and in the absence of such a report, can we have the number of complaints against BCP councillors determined between the 1st of April 2022 and the 31st of March 2023, plus the number of complaints that were upheld or upheld in part?
Mr. McKinstry, thanks for your third question, and I can confirm that the production of this report has not been discontinued, and its value in providing some more detailed analysis is really appreciated. This year's report is late, however, and I have to accept some responsibility for that, for which I apologise, but it will be presented to the next meeting of the Standards Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKinstry, and thank you to the head of legal as well. So we now move on to agenda item 6, which is our Code of Conduct Complaints Review. I'll ask the head of legal to take us through her report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this report provides both an update to the committee on the number of complaints that have been dealt with and progressed, and it also asks the committee to make a determination as to the options referred to in the report at paragraphs 13 to 24 in respect of 3 complaints that remain unresolved in view of the fact that the subject council have not complied with the sanction deemed appropriate. So in relation to the number of complaints that have been dealt with, you'll see that there are just 2 outstanding matters, and in relation to both of those matters, further evidence has been sought, and so and in respect of one, some evidence has been obtained, so it's expected we'll be able to progress that. All other matters, but for those referred to later on in this report, have been closed, and that is really thanks to the efforts of yourself, Chair, and this committee in being willing to meet to really make efforts to progress all matters in a timely fashion. If there are any questions before I move on to the issue of non-compliance, does anybody want to ask any questions in relation to that aspect of the report?
Members, do you have any questions regarding the first part of the report at all? No? I'd like to echo the head of legal's comments and thanking the committee for agreeing to meet so that we can expedite these complaints and for your assistance during those processes when we are in closed session. Thank you. So, Head of Legal, please can I ask you to go on to take us through the Code of Conduct Complaint 97. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You'll see from the report, I've set out a chronology of really from when the subject council was written to until to the current date. And you'll see that's been, the matter was initially assessed at the beginning of this year, and then the subject council requested a review. That review was carried out approximately a month later. The chair made the same determination, and the subject councillor was written to. She hasn't responded, and neither has she complied with the sanction imposed. Further efforts have been made to inquire as to whether the subject councillor intends to comply, but she has not confirmed either way. And so my recommendation in relation to this matter, which you'll see has been going on for over a year now, is that this complaint be made the subject of a full report to council in relation to the subject councillor's non-compliance. In relation to Code of Conduct Complaint 141, this was determined by the chair, yourself in fact, in consultation at a meeting on the 18th of July 2023. The complaint was upheld and the subject councillor was written to on the 25th of July, asked to provide a letter of apology within 14 days. Nothing was heard from the subject councillor, and she neither acknowledged your letter, Chair, nor offered the letter of apology. On the 21st of September, a further email was sent to the subject councillor inviting her to comply with the remedies imposed in relation to the complaint, and she was advised that if she didn't comply, a report would be presented to the Standards Committee this evening in relation requesting that a report be presented to full council. And a further copy of the email and outcome letter of the 25th of July was sent. And then again on the 25th of September, a further email was sent to the subject councillor inviting her to indicate her intentions in respect of this complaint. But at the time of writing, and in fact subsequently, no report with such confirmation has been received. So no confirmation either way, still in relation to that one. In relation to complaint 146, again, this one was initially determined by the Chair of Standards, yourself again, Chair, on the 20th of June, and the complaint was upheld in relation to a number of potential breaches of the code. The subject councillor was again written to, and your determination letter sent on the 22nd of June, inviting the subject councillor to provide a letter of apology within 14 days. The subject councillor responded to that initial letter on the 22nd of June, stating that further evidence should have been considered. And in view of the evidence, you, Chair, exercised your discretion and allowed a further review of that determination at an informal consultation meeting on the 18th of July. And at that meeting, having considered that further evidence, the initial determination was upheld by yourself in consultation with other members of Standards and the independent persons. The subject councillor was informed of this in a letter on the 25th of July, and again, nothing further was heard. On the 21st of September, a further email was sent inviting the subject councillor to indicate her intentions in respect of the complaint and compliance with the sanction. And again, she was advised that if she didn't comply, a report would be presented to today's meeting of Standards, requesting that a decision be made, agreeing that a report be presented to full council in relation to that non-compliance. The subject councillor did respond in relation to that complaint on the 25th of September, indicating that she had immediately apologised to the complainant for her actions. The subject councillor was asked to confirm that whether or not she sent a letter of apology following receipt of the chair's determination, and if she had sent a copy of the same to myself. The subject councillor stated that she had not sent such a letter of apology, but indicated that she had apologised to the complainant immediately after the alleged breach, a factor that the complainant had acknowledged in her initial complaint, and something that you, Chair, and the rest of Standards and the independence persons were also made aware of before reaching that determination at the informal consultation. So in terms of the options, there are a number of options available to the committee. The committee can obviously decide to do nothing in relation to the above complaints where the sanctions were not complied with. The committee may decide that it needs some more information in relation to either one of the three complaints before making a decision to refer the matters to full council, or alternatively it may decide that it's appropriate and make a decision to refer all of the above to full council on the basis that the chair and the committee have got enough information to make such a decision. This decision is the preferred decision. It's my recommended option. And it would have the advantage of sending a clear message about compliance with sanctions imposed by standards. And it would also have the advantage of concluding matters that have been outstanding for some considerable time. And as has already been noted, 97 is over a year now. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you. Before we move on to the debate, do you have any questions of the officer, please? Yes, Councillor Haynes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I've got two questions. So, and both of them are points of clarification. So, complaint 97, as Ingrid has rightly pointed out, is nearly over a year, coming up to a year now. Can you just confirm that actually, because it started in the previous term, that because subject councillor is still a councillor, I assume, that it therefore carries over, that is normal, the normal process?
That is the normal process. Yeah, there's nothing that would make it fall away as the subject councillor is still a councillor. There's no provisions in the Constitution that to say that, you know, a failure to comply with a sanction that was imposed under a previous administration would fall away in these circumstances. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Chair, can I ask the second question as well? So the second question is, in terms of the options for the committee to consider, can I ask when subject councillor was written to on all three occasions, were they made aware that should they not comply with what has been decided, that the next in the escalation process, that the next step would be that a report would go to full council? Was subject council made aware of that?
I can confirm that subject council was made aware of that on more than one occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, Councillor Waters.
And I feel like this has been answered by the language that's being used, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Is it the same councillor in every single complaint right now?
It's not the same
Okay.
councillor in each complaint, no.
Do members have any more questions? Independent persons, do you have any questions of the head of legal regarding her report, please?
This is Paul. No, I don't.
And none from me either, Chair. Thank you. That was Ian Sibley, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Connolly.
Apologies, I do have one. Just in terms of how it works in practice. So how, if a report is laid before council, would that be full council? Would there be a debate? Or just if you could talk a little bit about how it works, just for the benefit of those of us that are new.
So usual practice is I would prepare a report. It would name the councillor, and the councillor would be asked again to make that to make an apology, and consideration might be given to withdrawing the report in the event that the councillor agreed to comply with the sanction prior to a meeting of full council. But in the alternative, that report would be presented. It's not usually it's not usually time for any debate, but the report would be read and noted at full council.
Thank you. Have we finished with questions? Any more questions? No. Okay. So moving to the debate. First of all, I think that given that this is these complaints do not are not for the same councillor, that perhaps we should consider these complaints separately. And consider their individual circumstances. I think that's really the only fair thing to do, as we've heard that they are not from the same councillor. So if we can start with Code of Conduct Complaint 97, as you will have heard, this complaint was first heard in the previous Standards Committee to this in the previous council term, where the decision had been made and was reviewed and upheld. So we are now at the situation where there has been no response from the subject councillor herself. So I'll hand this over to members. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this and how you would like to proceed on this, please.
I think it's pretty clear that this councillor is not going to comply. I think they've given more than enough chances, and I think it's fair to say that the report should go to council.
Councillor Connolly.
Yeah, my view is with all of them. I think that it's really important that the Standards Committee is very clear that we need to be taken seriously, and councillors need to take the views of the Standards Committee seriously. And if this is the way to do that, then that's what we should do. If this is what we think is the most effective way to make sure that the findings of the committee are taken seriously, then that's what we should do. The only reason for all three of them that I would think we might want not to do this is if for some reason we think that this might cause more distress to the complainant, for example. So that might be maybe not for this one. I don't know enough about the background for this one, but that might be the only reason why I would pause.
Thank you. Anybody else? So can I have a show of hands, please, that the committee is happy to take 97 to full council? All those in favour? Yeah.
I think we should probably have
a full resolution for all of them.
Just one at a time, but I think Councillor Chapman proposed it. Let's have a seconder as well, then a vote.
Okay. So can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Walters. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on now to complaint number 141. We've heard from the head of legal. We are all aware of this because we all considered this complaint at our informal session. So can I have your thoughts on this, please? Does anybody want to kick off? Councillor Navarro?
I would say the same as before. If we don't do anything and take a report to full council, it's giving other councillors the impression that the Standards Committee has no teeth, as it were. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that a proposal to take it to full council?
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yep, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman-Law. Councillor Connolly, you wish to comment?
Could I just make one comment that it might be worth involving those involved in the complaint, so those who might be affected by it, just to make sure they're aware and content with that approach as well, just in case of the risk of causing more distress than needed.
Can I take your advice on this, please, Head of Legal?
I'm happy to write to each of the complainants to indicate that those are our intentions and confirm that they don't have any objections to that. But in the event that they did have any objections, we might still want to consider taking the matter, but just making sure it's really, really so clear that the complainants can't be identified in any way.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a proposal and a seconder. Oh, Councillor Haynes, thank you.
Sorry, no, there is a proposal on the table, but I just wanted to be absolutely clear about the time frame. So 97, it was very clear that it was nearly a year. So very happy with the resolution that we've just passed. But with this one, the informed consultation was July, and we're now in September, so with July, so say call it 3 months. Is that is there going to be any comeback to say that actually the other one was given a year almost, but this one is only within 3 months? I know that the letter required that it be action within 14 days. I was just sort of wanting to be clear that there isn't going to be a comeback on us as a committee because we allowed one to go on for so long, and then this one within a much shorter period, the escalation has started.
Thank you. I think the reason that the previous one went on so long was because we were waiting time and time again for more further submissions and further evidence, and we're requesting that. It was in the previous committee term, and I'm the only member that was in that the committee in that during that time, and I seem to remember that there were several requests for further information so that we could make sure that we were making the correct decision as a committee, and that's why it took so long. I certainly don't want code of conduct complaints to be dragged out any longer than they should do. We give our subject councillors 14 days to respond, and we'll also remind them, as the head of legal has done in this case, on a number of occasions, to please respond. I think the fact that there hasn't been a response on this particular case at all is quite telling. So I'm very comfortable in the fact that this has been 3 months from our initial consultation meeting. That doesn't mean that it's 3 months since the complaint was put in, because obviously we would have contacted the member for their response and everything before that. So as I say, I think 3 months. We need to get these wrapped up. I don't like them sitting around. I don't like them hanging around. We need to move on, put these things behind us, and hopefully move on in a spirit of harmony, and with our members abiding by the code of conduct.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for that clarification.
Chair, I'm sorry, I'm not able to put my hand up because you can't see me, but it's Ian Sibley, one of the independents. Can I just endorse the resolution in this case? One of the problems the previous standing committee had, and I was a member, an independent member of that as well, was a reduction of credibility in the whole process of standards committee work, and that was because of the delays from members in responding to proven allegations of misconduct. I think this committee has the chance now, right from the off, to put that right by adopting the sort of resolution that you have before you now.
Thank you, Mr. Sibley. That's appreciated. Do we have any other further comment on this? Mr. Cashmore, did you want to come in on this one?
I think I've made my position quite clear in previous meetings off the record about how I feel about some of these councillors having neglected their duties towards this committee. Yeah, so I fully endorse what's been said by the previous councillors and with Ian just now.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, just to echo what everyone else has been saying, really. Yeah, we live in the days of the internet. It takes seconds to send an email. It's not like they're trying to post a letter that can take time to show up. 14 days, etc., is more than enough time, I believe.
Thank you. We do have a proposal and a seconder, so I'm going to go to the vote now. All those in favour that this goes to council, please.
Unanimous again?
And that's unanimous. Thank you. We move on now to complaint number 146. Very similar timelines on this as well, you'll note. And I'm happy to open this to the floor for debate. Councillor Conley.
Just same request that the complainant be made aware and if they have any concerns that might be reflected in the way the report is drafted. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm happy to propose this one from the chair. Do I have a seconder, please? That this goes to council as well. Councillor Waters, thank you very much. So all those in favour of this one going to council too, and that's unanimous as well. Thank you very much. I think it's very important that we do show that this standards committee has some teeth, that we're not prepared to be ignored. We're not prepared for things to be brushed under the carpet, and that people should be taking code of conduct very, very seriously, because we do. So thank you everybody for that. Thank you. So with that item, that is our final item for tonight. And I would like to thank everybody for attending. I'd like to thank our independent persons, for Councillor Armstrong for attending virtually, for our member of the public, and also to our officers tonight as well. Thank you very much, everybody. See you next time.